Historical text on an ancient map explains a phrase about the sun symbolizing emblem knights. The noble knights of gray are described as elegant warriors resembling the moonlight. Two rival knights engage in a fierce and bloody duel. Text confirms that the two factions have been sworn enemies for generations. Commoners joke that the rivalry is so intense it would survive the end of the world. A public notice shocks the crowd with news of the commanders becoming sworn sisters. A peaceful forest scene serves as a backdrop as Melercia is mentioned. The formerly rival commanders walk together, having forged an unexpected bond of friendship. The silver-haired commander proposes a marriage between their children to solidify their new peace. Circea's mother, the red-haired commander of the Emblem Knights, joyfully accepts the proposal.
A celebratory clang sounds from the bell tower as birds take flight into the sky.
Circea, wearing a wedding veil, looks absolutely miserable and frustrated. She seethes with rage at the thought of marrying her lifelong rival, Enoch Gray. Cecilia berates Circea for wearing her knight uniform and looking like she is in mourning. Circea stubbornly refuses to change into a dress, leaving Cecilia completely baffled. Cecilia continues to plead with Lady Circea to take the engagement ceremony seriously. Circea stands defiant in her ornate blue uniform, surrounded by pink and white roses. Cecilia reluctantly accepts the uniform, but panics when she realizes Circea is armed. She screams in terror, fearing Circea plans to attack Lord Enoch with her sword. Circea dismisses the engagement as a pointless display of their parents' friendship. Cecilia stresses the political weight of the union, noting that foreign nations sent delegations. Overcome with emotion, Cecilia weeps over Circea's dismissive attitude toward the marriage. Narrative text reflects on the long and bloody history of fighting between the two families. Circea flashes a cheerful smile while making a rude gesture, horrifying Cecilia. She hopes the ceremony will be cancelled since Enoch has been missing for a week. A sudden, loud boom sounds, startling Cecilia as she discusses the missing fiancé. Both women turn in surprise toward the source of the noise. Three soldiers in blue uniforms tumble through the doors in a clumsy heap. They admit they were eavesdropping while trying to debunk rumors about Circea wearing a dress. Circea stands over the clumsy men, demanding they explain themselves. One man delivers a message from the vice commander suggesting she run away. The men enthusiastically offer to help her escape, much to Cecilia's dismay. Cecilia shrieks at Circea, terrified that the commander might actually consider running. The scene shifts to the Grand Imperial Palace banquet hall where guests have gathered. Circea refuses to flee as commander, but won't wait indefinitely for Enoch. Her sudden resolve leaves Cecilia and the soldiers in a state of shock. Circea devises a cunning plan to use Enoch's absence to break the engagement later. An elderly priest in ceremonial robes approaches Circea as the ceremony is prepared. He suggests praying for Enoch, but Circea claims she'd rather beat him himself. Circea demands that the ceremony begin immediately despite her fiancé's absence. The priest is stunned when Circea insists on proceeding alone, insulting the missing Enoch. She explains that proceeding now will legally trap Enoch in a permanent bachelorhood. Thrilled by her vengeful plan, Circea orders the wedding music to start. Trumpets blare a loud fanfare to announce the commencement of the official ceremony. The priest takes his position at the altar, looking slightly overwhelmed. Guests whisper about the missing Lord Enoch and the commander's unusual appearance. Circea ignores the gossip, thinking about how insufferable her absent rival truly is. Circea senses a heavy presence as a dark silhouette appears in the main entrance. She turns back with a look of growing unease as the doors swing wide. Enoch Gray arrives, battered and drenched in blood, but determined to attend the ceremony. The silver-haired man smiles despite the fresh blood spattered across his handsome face. Circea asks about his battered state, but Enoch simply claims he had to be here. Enoch prepares to ask a question, but Circia furiously rejects his use of a nickname. Circia remains confused as the silver-haired man lifts her chin with a bloody, gloved hand. As a soft sound rings out, Enoch dismisses her concerns and pulls her into a kiss. Stunned by the sudden contact, Circia stares wide-eyed in complete disbelief at the silver-haired man. Fury boils within Circia as she seethes over the audacity of the bastard Enoch Grey. The soldiers and maids scream in total shock at the brazen display between the rival commanders. Enoch looks into Circia's eyes with a strange intensity as he prepares to speak again. The silver-haired man asks if she missed him, while Circia questions his true identity. Circia is left speechless as Enoch reaches out to gently touch her long red hair. A word from the distant past resurfaces as Circia realizes he knows her secret occupation. Overwhelmed by the revelation, Circia demands to know how he could possibly know that word. Staring into his eyes, Circia begins to suspect a shocking connection to her former life. The narrative reflects on meeting a fated person during an unexpected engagement ceremony. A philosophical question arises about how many people can remember the first day of life. In a flashback, a red-haired woman and her partner proudly introduce their newborn child. The parents hope their child will finally end the long hatred between their warring families. The baby bellows with impressive strength, surprising her mother with her great energy. Mel notes the child is healthy, while her mother believes she will help many people. Reborn as a baby, Circia screams in confusion and frustration at her bizarre new surroundings. The narrative notes that her lunatic behavior wasn't just due to her tiny, sausage-like arms. Circia recalls her past life as a detective chasing a lifelong enemy through the shadows. In her memory, the detective shouts for the hooded criminal to stop right there. A desperate hand reaches out toward a target that is just out of reach. A loud honk sounds as the detective's final memory is filled with frustration and sadness. Baby Circia wails in rage about the criminal, while her parents admire her canary-like voice. The parents see her powerful crying as a good sign for a great future. A volume mute icon appears as the text notes nobody understood the newborn's heart. Three maids excitedly dote on the baby, unable to resist her adorable, chubby cheeks. Sitting up on her bed, the red-haired baby looks remarkably focused and composed. Circia realizes she can enjoy many perks in this life by manipulating people's reactions. An older maid scolds the others for playing when the family head is arriving. Circia feels uncomfortable as the maids whisper about her grandfather never visiting his own granddaughter. Relaxing on her back, the baby questions if a visit from him is truly necessary. Happy with her easy life, Circia decides she doesn't want to live intensely anymore. The maids scramble to clean the room while the master and mistress are currently away. A maid rushes to Circia's side as the baby wonders about the sudden commotion. The maid pleads with the baby to make a good impression as someone shouts orders. Circia becomes nervous as the maid panics about the family head's sudden arrival. The butler and maids stand in a rigid line to receive the important guest. A massive, red-bearded man in a decorated blue uniform enters with an imposing presence. The family head radiates a terrifying purple aura as Circia watches him with fear. Circia notes his scary appearance, having heard he is the most spirited of all commanders. The butler introduces the young lady, but the family head responds with a dark snarl. With a single shout, the grandfather sends the butler flying for naming Circia without permission. Circia is horrified as she watches the butler spit blood from a purely mental attack. The red-haired commander stands tall, surrounded by a menacing cloud of dark energy. Circia trembles in fear as her terrifying grandfather finally makes direct eye contact with her. Shaking with terror, Circia is shocked when the scary man asks if she has eaten. The red-bearded family head remains skeptical as the butler claims the baby eats well. An insulted baby Circia fumes as her grandfather questions her mother's choice in progeny. Circia reaches out in genuine concern for the butler following the grandfather's mental assault. The butler reveals a bottle of fake blood used to manipulate others for sympathy. Circia is impressed by the butler's ruthless dedication to survival within the noble household. The red-haired baby contemplates a counter-strategy for her grandfather's obvious dislike of her. Merlicia rushes into the room searching for her father, while Circia greets her mother. Militia playfully suggests that her father fled because he was caught showing affection. The red-haired mother celebrates her perceived victory, while the butler notes the head's departure. Melcia offers to explain the situation as the butler remains unconvinced of her victory. The red-haired woman smiles warmly as she cradles her daughter in her arms. A discarded stuffed bunny rests on the floor as Melcia mentions sending constant portraits. Mercia winks, claiming the family head returned early simply because he missed his granddaughter. The mother gloats over her win, while baby Circia remains completely baffled by the logic. The butler humors Maltricia's enthusiasm, suggesting the family head must truly adore the lady. Circia wails in protest, refusing to accept her grandfather's terrifying behavior as a form of love. Mercia continues to dote on Circia, oblivious to the baby's internal struggle and lack of communication. The butler presents a lavish spread of rare delicacies, encouraging the young lady to eat heartily. Circia trembles at the table as the butler questions if something is wrong with the food. The baby is visibly overwhelmed by the sheer amount of expensive delicacies placed before her. Circia rages against the forced affection of being overfed by her overbearing grandfather. A sudden movement sends the silver platters clattering as the butler watches in shock. Circia cries out in frustration, begging for the endless parade of food to finally stop. A woman introduces a young boy named Enoch to his future fiancé, the infant Circia. A sudden, loud clang sounds as the portrait of the baby girl is knocked to the floor. The silver-haired boy stands defiantly over the fallen portrait with a look of intense determination. The narrative shift highlights the grand imperial palace as Circia identifies her favorite person. Benedict enters the room as the butler attempts to serve Circia yet another roasted bird. Circia joyfully reaches for Benedict as he invites his daughter to come to him. Benedict holds Circia, understanding her exhaustion from eating such rich and heavy foods. The baby claps happily as her father validates her desire to stop eating the delicacies. Benedict smiles tenderly at his daughter's happiness, noting her beautiful and bright features. The butler panics over the remaining 12 courses as Benedict carries Circia out of the room. Circia enjoys a quiet moment in bed as her father reads her a fun storybook. Benedict asks if he should continue reading, prompted by Circia's enthusiastic nodding and agreement. The butler announces the family head's return as Circia remains content in her father's care. Benedict assumes the grandfather missed her, but Circia glows with a dark, irritated energy. Circia finds her grandfather's overbearing behavior and arrogant tone to be completely insufferable. Benedict attempts to soothe Circia, insisting that the grandfather's actions are born from pure love. Her father encourages her to listen with an open heart, as Circia remains deeply skeptical. The text notes the incredible cost and difficulty involved in obtaining the rare delicacies served. Circia imagines her elderly grandfather personally hunting for the food just to show his affection. The family head crosses his arms and insults the baby's thin limbs, calling them rotten branches. Benedict greets his father, while Circia seethes with rage at the man's rude and overbearing remarks. The grandfather scolds Circia for being impudent, while the baby bellows a loud protest in return. Overcome with anger, Circia finds the old man's presence to be incredibly annoying and frustrating. Benedict translates the grandfather's harsh insults as a sign of worry over Circia's health. Benedict addresses his father while Circia stares blankly, still processing the confusing display of affection. The family head asks when the child will finally start walking as he watches her intently. The imposing family head stands tall while Benedict holds the baby in the grand hallway. Benedict confirms Circia is walking well, as the baby suspects her grandfather planned his arrival. The family head is stunned to hear that Circia is already walking and running with ease. Infuriated that he missed a milestone, the red-haired commander radiates a terrifying and explosive energy. A series of thumping sounds echoes through the palace as the floor begins to shake violently. Circia panics over the perceived earthquake while her father tries to soothe her growing fear. Driven by disappointment, the grandfather sprints away, leaving a trail of destruction in his jealous wake. The family head crashes through the floor, bellows for Jade Grey after realizing he was tricked. Benedict holds the baby as Circia gapes in awe at her grandfather's incredible superhuman speed. A letter reveals Jade Grey taunted the grandfather about missing the baby's first steps, playing him perfectly. Circia reconsiders her father's words about the grandfather's clumsy affection while eating her mushroom soup. Amidst rainbows and sweets, the joyful butler serves more delicacies to the happy, eating baby. A grand palace shot marks the ducal house as Circia reflects on her infant state. Dressed in a lavish lavender gown, Circia groans at the absurdity of her current life. Melercia and Benedict dote on their baby angel, much to the embarrassment of the former detective. Melercia worries about Enoch falling hopelessly in love with Circia at first sight during their meeting. Circia has a mental breakdown at the prospect of having Enoch Grey as her future fiancé. The baby worries that meeting so young will ruin any romantic tension for their adult lives. Circia wails in frustration about her situation just as a maid announces an important arrival. The news that young Master Enoch Grey has arrived sends Circia into a state of frozen shock. A silver-haired woman in uniform enters, followed by a man carrying the silver-haired infant Enoch. Dana embraces Melcia, lamenting the long time they spent apart due to her demanding career. Baby Circia stares blankly at the visitors, feeling a strange sense of unease about the introduction. Melercia eagerly offers to introduce her lovely daughter to her dear friend after their warm reunion. Benedict holds Circia while Dana admires the child's loveliness and resemblance to her mother. Dana playfully offers to take the baby home, but Benedict protectively refuses to let her go. Merlicia asks to see Enoch, causing Dana to agree with a notably serious and dark expression. Edward, the blue-haired man, steps forward with the silver-haired baby as Dana calls for them. A close-up reveals baby Enoch making a soft sound while Edward prepares for the formal greeting. Placed together, Circia finds Enoch's gaze unsettling and strangely familiar, sparking an odd feeling. Looking at the boy makes Circia feel increasingly queasy, as if she might be sick. The mothers encourage a friendly greeting, oblivious to the awkward and tense atmosphere between the babies. Overwhelmed by dizziness and irrational anger, Circia feels an uncontrollable urge to hit the silver-haired boy. A sudden, sharp thwack sounds as Circia punches baby Enoch in the face, shocking the mothers. Circia stands stunned by her own violent impulse as Enoch reels from the unexpected blow. Melercia screams in total horror and disbelief while watching the shocking encounter unfold between the babies. Both fathers are left speechless, staring at the scene with expressions of profound confusion and dread. Enoch sits on the floor with a red mark on his face, letting out a stunned cry. A determined grunt sounds as Enoch bellows in rage and prepares to charge back at Circia. Circia effortlessly dodges the counterattack, using the honed reflexes and instincts from her former life. Enoch falls face first onto the carpet as Circia stands over him with her arms crossed smugly. Circia lets out a soft, dismissive sound as she winks, noting that fighting an infant is child's play. The adults stand in a heavy, stunned silence as they witness the competitive behavior of the infants. Dana picks up her crying son, scolding him for the outburst as Edward watches the scene.
Melricia finds Circea's feisty nature amusing, yet approaches her daughter to address the aggressive behavior. Melurcia scolds Circea for hitting Enoch, while the baby tries to claim he simply fell down. Insisting on a proper apology, Melcir demands that Circea make up with Enoch immediately. Mercia attempts to facilitate a reconciliation, but Dana tries to laugh off the incident as unnecessary. As Melcia pushes for a gentle apology, Circea's nausea returns with a vengeance at Enoch's proximity. A sudden retching sound rings out as Circea vomits a colorful rainbow directly onto baby Enoch's face. Dana and Merlisa are left completely frozen in shock by the sudden and messy end to the meeting. Circea laughs nervously while her mother's internal thoughts reflect on the messy incident. A quick, clear talk sounds as a fancy shoe steps onto the carriage platform. A sudden reeled sound echoes as the staggering mother is steadied by the brown-haired man. Benedict asks if Melcia is all right while the baby cries out for her mother. Melurcia expresses deep regret for disappointing the emblems as Circea watches her with worry. A booming voice demands the baby's location, sending a wave of shock through the family. Rapid thumping sounds echo as the commander charges forward, praising his granddaughter for her punch. Circea trembles and points in disbelief as she begins to recognize the boisterous old man. Chibi drawings show the grandfather joyfully spinning Circea while the parents scream in panic. The scene shifts to the lush palace gardens where a maid frantically searches for Lady Circea. A sharp snap sounds as the red-haired girl turns, noticing the maid is closing in. Circea looks around the massive tree trunk while Cecilia warns that the banquet starts soon. Cecilia continues to shout about the dress as Circea sits on the ground, completely filthy. A soft huff sounds as Circea realizes the dress she ruined is worth an entire house. Multiple huffing sounds ring out as the angry maid stomps away from the trouble-making child. Circea creeps through the tall grass, determined to avoid meeting the boy named Enoch Gray. The girl reflects on how unpleasant and uncomfortable every meeting with Enoch has been thus far. A sudden perking sound occurs as Circea hears a stream and decides to head toward it. Circea dashes into a clearing, annoyed by the popularity of Enoch and her family's expectations. A loud splash sounds as the girl reaches the water, hoping for freedom and a nap. A sudden startle sounds when Enoch asks why she is there, shocking the hiding girl. The silver-haired boy sits regally in a white uniform, resting a hand on his knee. A soft slump sounds as the children argue about who was hiding from whom first. Circea expresses her extreme annoyance while Enoch dismissively questions her right to speak so rudely. Heavy stomping sounds echo as Enoch insists he was there first and orders her to leave. A dull thud sounds as the silver-haired boy lies back on the grass, refusing to move. A faint tremble sounds as Circea seethes, frustrated that her adult mind is losing to a child. The girl's attention is caught by the metallic object strapped to the silver-haired boy's waist. A quick clock sounds as Circea steps onto the rocks, demanding to know what Enoch has. A soft peak sounds as Circea leans in closer, asking if the sword is actually real. A sudden zoom sound highlights the ornate sword that the family head gave to the boy. Enoch explains his duty to become a knight, while Circea asks if he is learning swordsmanship. The boy questions why Circea hasn't started her own training yet as an emblem of her family. Circea contemplates her natural interest in swords, despite the heavy expectations placed upon her knightly family. The girl admits the sword looks cool while feeling annoyed that Enoch received his weapon first. Circea worries that learning swordsmanship will lead to another exhausting and difficult life like her previous one.
Enoch presses for an answer about her delay, while Circia admits she finds the idea painful.
The silver-haired boy grabs Circea's collar, furiously insisting that she must learn how to fight. Enoch yells about her duty to House Emblem, claiming the family line depends on her becoming a knight.
A sudden retching sound rings out as Circia threatens to throw up on the boy again. A distancing sound occurs as Enoch backs away, asking if she truly has no intention of training.
A sharp tremble sounds as the boy shivers with rage at Circea's dismissive and lazy attitude. A quick flinch sounds as Enoch claims her choice will make her a boring person to know.
A sudden zoom sound accompanies Enoch's taunt that the house will decline because of her weakness. Circia explodes into a fiery rage, screaming at the boy to stop his insulting and arrogant lecture.
The girl stands frozen as the boy's words about her weakness echo painfully through her mind.
A terrifying monster sound rings out as Enoch realizes he has pushed the angry girl too far.
A massive smash sounds as Circia delivers a powerful punch directly to the silver-haired boy's face.
Ouch and thwack sounds ring out as Circia beats the 7-year-old boy into the grass. Water-dripping sounds echo as Malertia punishes her daughter for hitting Enoch far too hard.
Holding her arms up, Circia groans that her mother scolding her feels deeply unfair.
The girl fumes, justifying her violence by claiming the arrogant boy deserved a lesson. Malversha harshly scolds her daughter, demanding to know why she refuses to reflect on her actions.
The red-haired commander bursts in, boisterously asking if his granddaughter truly beat up the boy.
The grandfather celebrates the glorious victory while Malertia screams at him to stop encouraging the behavior. Circia looks up with wide, shimmering eyes, clearly affected by the sudden praise and attention. The grandfather becomes frantic and worried when he notices his beloved granddaughter has started to cry. Sobbing, Circia claims the boy insulted her for refusing to learn the ways of the sword. The girl laments that the boy predicted her family's decline, wounding her pride as an emblem. The grandfather joyfully embraces her, declaring her an honorable emblem, while the mother watches in silence. The old man credits Circia for protecting their family honor, while Melcia looks away with concern. The scene shifts to the ducal palace, standing silent and still under a bright full moon. Lying in bed, Circia nurses her aching arms while resenting her mother's lack of understanding. A sudden noise at the door startles the girl, making her wonder who is visiting so late. Deciding she is not in the mood for company, Circia closes her eyes to pretend she is asleep. Melisha leans over the bed, softly noting that her daughter appears to be resting peacefully. The mother gently massages the girl's sore arms, apologizing for the harsh scolding earlier that day. Malercia applies cooling medicine as she mentions that Enoch also faced a severe scolding and ran away. The woman admits that both mothers went too far in their pursuit of maintaining family harmony. Malercia observes that Circia's anger likely stems from a growing sense of pride in her noble heritage. Wishing her daughter a good night, Melisha smiles warmly at how much the girl has grown. The door closes with a dull thud, leaving Circia alone in the quiet, blue-tinted room. Circia shifts under the covers, her mind racing despite her mother's efforts to comfort her. The girl stares into the darkness, looking genuinely shaken by the depth of her mother's affection. Circia feels a deep sense of fear, unable to reconcile the mother's warmth with her past experiences. A flashback reveals Circia's past life as an orphan after being abused by her biological parents. A man reaches out to the young, dark-haired girl, promising to treasure her as his own family. The young girl looks up hopefully at the man who wears an expensive, shining silver watch. Their hands meet with a soft click, and the girl feels she was born to meet them. The memory turns grim as police tape surrounds a crime scene where investigators call for forensics. The young girl watches from the shadows as a body is wheeled away from the scene. A sudden sound occurs as a hand falls from the gurney, revealing her father's signature watch.
An officer shouts for the child to stay back as she tries to cross the police line.
Screaming for her parents, the girl is pulled away while learning they supposedly committed suicide. As an adult detective, Circia vows to find the truth, having never known true parental love.
A close-up of her police ID highlights the lonely path she walked without a family's support.
Back in the present, the girl trembles with fear that her kind mother might also disappear. Circia reflects on the unprecedented care she is receiving, feeling a strange mix of joy and terror. The girl smiles through her tears, admitting that despite her fear, she feels truly happy.
Circia steps out onto the balcony, looking for a distraction from her heavy and confusing thoughts.
The night air clears her mind, helping her move past the lingering anger she felt toward Enoch.
Circia mocks the boy's arrogance, annoyed that he thinks a wooden sword makes him superior. A sudden laugh escapes her as the tension of the day finally begins to wash away.
The girl stops abruptly when she hears a suspicious rustling sound coming from the garden below. Circia peers over the railing, wondering if some intruder has managed to sneak into the palace grounds. A glowing figure sits among the leaves, revealed to be the silver-haired boy hiding in the bushes.
Circia narrows her eyes as she realizes the intruder is actually the boy she was just insulting.
The girl watches from above as Enoch crouches on the grass, looking disheveled and out of place. A soft sound occurs as the silver-haired boy plucks at the grass, unaware he is being watched. The children lock eyes as Enoch questions her presence, prompting Circia to demand the same of him. Enoch sheepishly claims he is just pulling weeds while kneeling in the garden.
Circia looks at the boy with a deeply skeptical and questioning expression. As Circia walks away, Enoch reaches out frantically, begging her to wait a moment. The girl warns that he'll be caught soon, prompting Enoch's shock at the news.
Circia observes that this hesitant behavior is completely out of character for the boy. Rubbing his head, Enoch offers a sincere apology for his earlier insults and behavior. The boy explains his guilt over insulting her family and his outburst about training. Heavy footsteps sound as Circia approaches the boy, catching him off guard. Circia gently reaches out and cradles the silver-haired boy's bandaged face.
Enoch looks up in surprise as the girl continues to hold his face gently. The children lean in close, their foreheads almost touching in a quiet moment of connection.
A sudden talk sounds as Enoch panics and pushes Circia away, telling her to leave. Circia is annoyed by the fuss, while Enoch stammers an apology for pushing her. The girl watches the boy, noting that he is acting very unlike himself tonight. Enoch trembles and looks away, visibly distressed by the conversation and his own actions. The boy explains that Aunt Dana is leaving, making his situation more urgent. Circia mocks him for sulking, while Chibi Enoch furiously denies being upset. Enoch complains about the pressure of his training and his aunt's upcoming departure. A heavy slump sounds as the boy curls up on the grass in despair.
Circia stares down at the huddling boy, convinced that he is indeed sulking.
The girl leans over the boy, mockingly asking if he has started crying. Chibi Circia continues to tease him with a playful grin, asking again if he's crying. Enoch snaps, yelling that his mother was banished because of their forced engagement. The boy shouts about the physical pain and exhaustion he endures during sword training.
Enoch reveals that winning a duel is his only hope to bring his mother back.
Standing up with renewed energy, the boy insists Circia must learn the sword. Enoch desperately pleads with Circia to finally begin her own swordsmanship training.
Circia reflects on the boy's true motivations, realizing his anger was born of desperation. Enoch asks if she finally understands the gravity of his situation and feelings.
The girl questions why the boy assumes he would automatically win a duel. Enoch points out her laziness, claiming he couldn't possibly lose to her.
Circia fumes with silent rage, acknowledging the boy's talent for being incredibly annoying.
Enoch recoils in fear as Circia clenches her fist, worrying she'll hit him again. Pointing a finger at the boy, Circia loudly declares she will never lose to him. As she stomps away, Enoch shouts with joy that she is now his rival. Circia reflects that their simple childhood rivalry was viewed as something far more significant. A sharp hiya rings out as the scene transitions to a bright training field. The red-haired girl practices intensely, striking a wooden training dummy with her sword. Circia shouts her target as she swings the wooden blade with focused power. Multiple strikes land on the dummy as a man with black hair watches her. A sudden ahem sounds as the man clears his throat to address Lady Circia.
Circia stops her training immediately, responding to Teacher Lawrence with a sharp salute.
Lawrence lectures her loudly, questioning her understanding of the different strike techniques.
The teacher sighs, noting that her fierce temper is proof of her emblem bloodline. Lawrence's eyes glow with intensity as he asks if her goal is truly victory.
Circia responds with a fiery declaration of her intent to beat Enoch in a duel.
A heavy kung sounds as Lawrence warns that reckless behavior will lead to defeat. Crying comically, Circia vows to follow her master's guidance to avoid any losses. The girl runs across the training ground, determined to surpass the boy who annoyed her.
Circia reflects on how her desire to beat Enoch was misinterpreted by those around them.
Circia reflects on how her parents' strictness was born from their genuine concern.
The boisterous grandfather laughs while Melcia scolds him for encouraging the child's aggression.
Commoners in a tavern discuss the rivalry between Circia and Enoch for a night position.
A sharp clink sounds as patrons celebrate the arrival of another grand festival.
A luxurious red cape with gold embroidery sweeps across the polished palace floor. Rhythmic footsteps echo through the hall as a blond man approaches the royal throne.
A heavy plop sounds as Emperor Marcian Leopold Rutinus takes his seat on the throne.
The emperor questions the report that Circia Emblem has finally begun her swordsmanship training.
The attendant confirms the family's competition, while Marcian looks forward to the entertainment. With glowing eyes, the emperor dismisses concerns about the dangers within the Mitro forest. The attendant bows deeply, sweating as he apologizes for overstepping his authority. Marcian offers forgiveness but commands the man to go and bring someone back.
The emperor muses on the rivalry, noting the next emperor must also be curious.
A young blonde boy reads a book while wondering which rival will prove superior. The boy stares intently, contemplating who will become a faithful sword to fight for him. A quick click sounds as Melmercia sets down tea, questioning the necessity of this path. Drinking tea, the grandfather dismisses concerns, while Melurcia worries about her daughter being overtrained. The Duke boasts of their resilient bloodline, but Melurcia argues Circia is driven by emotion. Sweating, the grandfather vows to punish whoever is responsible for upsetting his granddaughter. A flashback reveals Lawrence pushing Circia to run more laps during their intense training.
Circia struggles to keep up as her teacher tells her to find growth through pain.
The grandfather eavesdrops, mentioning Enoch's progress to provoke Circia into training even harder. Circia reacts with frantic shock when told that Enoch has already run 10 laps.
Consumed by a fiery, competitive rage, the girl screams Enoch's name in pure frustration. Back in the present, the grandfather flees while Melcia demands he at least bring water.
The butler enters the room just as the Duke zips past on urgent business.
The butler presents an invitation from the Imperial Palace for a special hunting tournament.
Melcia is confused, noting they already received their invitation and wondering about this new one.
The document is revealed to be a personal invitation addressed specifically to Princess Circia. Mercia realizes that attendants are likely delivering a similar invitation to Enoch in Grey Territory. The butler confirms the high likelihood that the boy has also been summoned to compete. Melurcia worries about the Emperor's intentions behind making such young children compete so publicly.
Slamming her hand down, the mother finds the idea of the hunting tournament utterly excessive. A sudden breeze stirs as Mulmirsha laments sending the children to the monster-filled Mitro forest. The Duke playfully tosses Circia while Melcia watches, filled with a growing sense of dread. Rhythmic hoofbeats sound as the horse-drawn carriage carries the family toward the imperial event. Inside the carriage, Circia's father attempts to soothe Melcia's fears about the forest's dangers. 3 young girls sob loudly, jealous that Circia is going to see Enoch without them.
Covering her ears, Circia tells the annoying children to enter the tournament themselves.
A blonde girl cries that it's unfair Circia gets to marry Enoch instead of her. Circia shouts in disbelief, firmly declaring that Enoch is not her type at all. The girl shocks the room by claiming she would much rather marry her own father. Circia points out that Enoch is a stick compared to her handsome father, silencing them. The young girls turn to look at the silhouettes of the man behind them. Circia's father appears in a sparkling glow, looking incredibly handsome and charming with a smile. Struck by his good looks, the 3 girls instantly fall for Circia's father instead. The children now clamor to marry the father, driving Circia to scream for peace. Circia looks out the window, relieved that they have finally reached the imperial palace. The girl is wide-eyed with awe at the glamorous venue and the gathering of nobles. A massive, glittering chandelier illuminates the opulent hall as the grand event begins. The grand hall is filled with the low hum of laughter and chatter. Merlisha excitedly declares she has been waiting for this day to exchange words with them. The older man and Enoch stand together in their ornate blue military uniforms. The older man reminds Enoch he is superior to Emblem, and the boy obediently agrees. Chibi Enoch looks stern as he addresses his nervous-looking grandfather.
Enoch's grandfather suggests they greet the families, but Enoch wonders where Circia has gone.
A heavy plop sounds as Circia faceplants onto her bed with a long, weary sigh. Circia is distressed by the realization that she won't be seeing her parents on this day. A dull thud echoes through the room as Cecilia leaves, telling Circia to call if needed. Circia looks away in disappointment, feeling abandoned by Cecilia and her parents on her special day. Chibi Circia breaks into tears, lamenting that this is no way to celebrate a 7th birthday. A loud wah rings out as the red-haired girl flails on the floor in birthday despair. Circia lets out a soft whimper as she lies down, wondering why she is so tired. The girl tucks herself into bed, hoping that a bit of sleep will make her feel better. As Circia sleeps, a soft voice gently tells her not to worry. A quick shake startles Circia as a maid urgently wakes her up. Circia is confused as a blindfold is placed over her eyes and she is told to follow. The brown-haired woman leads the blindfolded girl through the room. Circia grumbles that she just wants to rest or be with her parents instead of doing this. A sudden pop sounds as confetti rains down on Circia when her blindfold is finally removed. Circia's father stands before her with a large gift, wishing her a very happy birthday. He explains they were hiding their excitement to surprise her and tells her to open the gift. Overjoyed and tearful, Circia realizes her parents never forgot her special day. A sharp click sounds as Circia eagerly opens the mysterious gift box. Circia's eyes go wide with shock as she peers at the item inside the box. The box contains a magnificent longsword with an ornate gold hilt and a dark scabbard. A flashback shows Circia's father previously denying her a real sword due to her lack of strength. Circia breaks into a loud wah as she screams that it's unfair Enoch uses a real sword. The girl is touched that her father remembered her plea and crafted the sword herself. Her father then reveals a second surprise, a miniature version of the official Emblem knight uniform. Circia declares it the best gift ever, thanking her father for his thoughtful presence. Circia looks at the shadows of a crowd, perhaps imagining her future as a knight.
Circia calls out for her mother as she walks through the sunny garden. Circea's eyes widen in surprise as she spots a familiar figure in the distance.
Merlicia stands tall in her own blue and gold knight uniform, complete with a red cape. Circia wonders if her mother finally views her as a true knight now that she has her uniform.
Mercia draws her sword with a confident grin, warning Circia that she won't be going easy. Wiping her eyes, Circia insists she has practiced hard and is ready for the challenge.
Circia poses heroically with her new sword, determined to prove her skills to her mother.
Mercia smiles, challenging her daughter to show exactly what she has learned. A loud stomp sounds as the duel begins with a fierce cry of "Hiya!"
Circeus' name is shouted as a powerful impact shakes the training ground.
A red cape trails through the air as the force of the strike is felt.
Merlicia looks up, commenting with a smile on how well Circia seems to fly.
A playful giggle escapes Mercia as she tells the others to go find the flying Circia. Circia is revealed to have landed high up in a tree, begging her mother to be gentler. A loud slurp sounds as Circia sulks while drinking a pink strawberry beverage through a straw.
Mercia is the center of attention at the gathering, being greeted by many admiring nobles.
Her father suggests that Circia could one day become the emblem commander, but she is doubtful.
A tight squeeze sounds as Circia clenches her fist, feeling she lacks talent compared to Enoch.
Circia expresses her deep discomfort at the tournament, fearing she will lose to Enoch.
She reflects on starting swordsmanship to defeat Enoch, wondering if losing makes her effort meaningless. The scene shifts to training, where Circia feels an empty regret before being interrupted by a call for Lord Grey. Circia is startled to see Enoch being swarmed by admiring girls in the distance. The girls enthusiastically offer Enoch cookies and a dance, clearly smitten with the young boy.
Enoch politely declines the invitations, explaining that he must remain by his grandfather's side today.
Watching from afar, Circia finds the attention Enoch receives utterly annoying and glares at him.
A tense, glaring contest erupts between Enoch and the fiery Circia, fueled by their mutual rivalry.
Circia suddenly turns her attention toward the grand entrance as the Emperor is announced. The crowd erupts in cheers and shouts of admiration as the Emperor finally makes his appearance. The blonde Emperor Markian enters the hall, accompanied by a frail-looking blonde boy.
Circia admires the Emperor's cool demeanor, while others gossip about the Crown Prince's rare public appearance.
Clinging to her father, Circia asks why the atmosphere feels strange and if the prince shouldn't be there. Her father gently explains that the Crown Prince has suffered from severe illnesses since he was very young. A close look reveals the young prince's pale complexion and a somber, serious expression for his age. The blonde boy gives a small, bashful wave to the gathered nobles as he follows his father.
Circia observes the prince, thinking he seems physically frail, but possesses a kind and good heart.
She asks her father if the archbishop could use divine power to permanently cure the prince's ailments.
Her father looks down sadly, explaining that healing cannot protect the boy from those who wish him harm.
Circia reacts with shock and confusion at the idea that the young prince is in actual danger. She grows quiet, contemplating the dangerous and lonely situation the sickly young boy must navigate.
Circia observes the prince from a distance, reflecting on the honor of becoming a sword for someone vulnerable.
The young prince clutches a heavy, ornate book with both hands as he walks through the hall. The Emperor continues to wave to the adoring crowd, seemingly oblivious to his son's quiet burden. Emperor Markian and the white-haired Duke Grey exchange formal and friendly greetings after a long absence.
The Emperor expresses interest in the boy, and Duke Grey proudly moves to formally introduce Enoch.
Enoch bows deeply and politely introduces himself to His Majesty as Enoch Grey.
The Emperor encourages his son to greet Enoch, referring to him as the future Grey family commander.
Standing tall, Enoch firmly promises the Emperor that he will serve the Crown Prince faithfully.
The emperor whispers to Duke Gray about the benefits of the prince having a loyal guard as a friend.
The two young boys shake hands under the watchful and calculating eyes of their powerful relatives.
Duke Gray reflects on the emperor's obvious pushing, wondering if the Gray family is being favored. He acknowledges the historical rivalry, but notes the current skill gap favors Enoch over the Emblem family. Duke Gray looks at Enoch with high expectations, hoping he will fulfill the family's long-held wishes.
The prince and Enoch encounter the red-haired Circia and her father as they move through the palace.
Circea's father and the young girl stand together as they prepare to greet the royal party.
Surrounded by a shimmering floral background, Circia introduces herself as Circia Emblem with a bright smile.
The crown prince's eyes light up with pure shock and excitement upon hearing Circea's name. He enthusiastically tells Circia how much he has wanted to discuss a specific book with an emblem.
The prince holds up his book, asking if she has read it as part of her family's training.
The joyful moment is shattered as the prince suddenly coughs up blood, terrifying Circia and the onlookers.
While everyone panics, the prince awkwardly laughs, claiming he just got too excited about their conversation.
Circia watches with concern as her father and the duke suggest the prince go rest immediately. The blonde boy continues to wave and insist he is fine, though his pale face says otherwise.
Circia is struck by the look in his eyes, sensing he is desperately begging her not to leave. Her father suggests the prince rest today, and promises a visit to the Emblem Mansion very soon. Circia is filled with pity for the prince, saddened by his inability to play and live normally.
She gives him a confident thumbs up, vowing to show him the family's legendary sword techniques later. A heart-tipped arrow of affection strikes the prince as he is deeply moved by Circea's vibrant spirit. Circia waves a cheerful goodbye, telling the crown prince to rest well and get better soon. The brown-haired man politely hopes that the head of the Gray family enjoys the banquet.
Duke Gray offers to escort the emperor, while a thought bubble praises his clever political maneuver.
Enoch feels sweat-inducing anxiety as he realizes the immense pressure of his current situation.
The scene shifts to the bright morning light at the entrance of Mitro Forest. A man in a suit shouts through a megaphone about the chance to become a knight. A crowd of nobles gathers before the kingdom's banner under a bright, sunny sky.
Merlicia asks Circia if she remembers what her mother said was most important. Circia recites the rule about watching prey. Then her mother asks what her best skill is. Chibi Circia is confused as Melcia explains that maintaining eye contact is the key to learning.
Melircia tells Circea's father they must go, while the brown-haired man encourages her to do well. Her father reassures them that Circia will only encounter harmless herbivores in the youth competition area.
Circia clenches her fist, confidently telling her worried mother that she is plenty strong enough.
With a bright, determined smile, the red-haired girl finally heads off toward the hunting grounds.
Melircia yells that safety is better than winning, but Circia defiantly shouts her disagreement. Circia gasps, realizing she accidentally shouted the exact opposite of what she truly meant.
Circia focuses intently, realizing she must win now before Enoch's skills grow any further. The determined girl sprints through the woods, vowing to outhunt her rival Enoch today.
A bright spark sounds as the scene transitions to a quiet area deep within the forest.
A blonde-haired boy nervously greets Circia as she arrives with her ornate new sword.
A loud biba ang horn sounds as Circia introduces herself to the two young boys.
Circia is startled by the sudden signal, asking if the competition started and where Enoch is. Realizing Enoch left her behind, Circia growls in frustration at her rival's sneaky head start.
A sudden, breezy whing sounds as Circia dashes away, shouting that she refuses to lose.
The blonde boy scratches his head, noting that he intended to suggest Circia should just quit. The red-haired boy suggests Circia isn't interested in them, considering effort to be entirely futile.
A quick tuck sounds as a rabbit is successfully hunted within the brush.
Circia catches her breath, surprised to see the two boys standing near a pile of prey. The boys explain they were merely organizing the animals caught by Enoch and Circia.
Circia thanks them, but urges them to hunt for themselves so they don't lose the competition.
The boys claim that winning is more trouble than it's worth for lower-ranking nobles like them. They explain that winning would ruin the expected spectacle between the emblem and gray houses.
They conclude that since losing is the expected outcome, there is no point in trying hard.
Circia grips her golden-hilted sword as the narration reflects on the weight of her grouping.
Furious, the red-haired girl screams that their entire perspective on the competition is completely wrong.
Circia tells them this situation is actually an incredible opportunity that they must listen to carefully.
She insists that winning won't make them traitors, but will instead prove their own worth. Circia reminds them that every important noble came to watch the clash of the two families. She compares the great houses to burning buildings, asking if a bigger fire would be entertaining. Circia points upward, asking what happens if a new, brighter fire blazes right next to them.
The girl stands tall, using her metaphor to challenge the boys to aim for something more.
She asks if the crowd would enjoy the new spectacle, leaving the boys looking completely stunned. Circia explains that both Night Orders would try to recruit them if they managed to win. Winking, she jokes that they would be the ones who beat a genius and a mediocre rival. Circia is cut off as Enoch suddenly appears behind her, carrying a massive wild boar. Enoch stares blankly, repeating Circia's insult about him being mediocre back to her.
Circia laughs nervously while Enoch begins to recount a serious lesson his grandfather once taught him.
A heavy tuck sounds as the boar hits the ground while Enoch lists what truly matters. Surrounded by blooming flowers, the silver-haired Enoch stands with a formidable and majestic aura. The blonde boy tries to speak as Circia looks on in shock at Enoch's sudden presence. He sheepishly admits that not everyone possesses the unwavering confidence that Enoch and Circia share. The blonde-haired boy looks terrified as a low, ominous hum sounds from a thought. Circia recognizes the boy as Olivia Boldmore's brother and asks how he knows her sister. A memory from the carriage shows a crying blonde girl tormenting Circia with her loud voice.
Circia mentions his brother always wanted to join the Emblem Knights, surprising the blonde boy.
Circia offers a hint on how to impress the Emblem Commander, sparking the boy's curiosity. Circia explains that her mother appreciates those who persevere until the end, giving a thumbs up. The blonde boy stares in wide-eyed shock as cold sweat beads on his forehead. Reinvigorated, the blonde boy tells Emmett they must show everyone what lower nobility can achieve. A sharp metallic ring sounds as Enoch draws his sword, offering the boys a 30-minute lead. Circia teases Enoch about needing rest, but he curtly tells her to be quiet. A clear ring sounds as Emmett and the blonde boy draw their swords to compete. A frantic pitter-patter sounds as the two boys charge into the dense forest to hunt. Circia finds the boys cute, while the silver-haired Enoch watches her with a calm expression.
Circia stares ahead with glowing golden eyes and a look of absolute determination.
Circia is overjoyed by a recent revelation, while Enoch remarks that she seems overly happy. Enoch asks if she will go easy on him so he can win the tournament.
Circia gets serious, promising to crush him, which Enoch admits he prefers.
The silver-haired boy gives a gentle smile, looking deeply at the red-haired girl. Circia notes that Enoch no longer gets nauseous when she stands close to him. Narrations reflect that Enoch used to feel sick just by looking at Circia's intense eyes. Enoch shouts that she is too close, prompting a startled apology from Circia. The young Olivia Boldmore suddenly appears, crying and yelling for them not to marry. A sudden puff of frustration sounds as the little blonde girl fumes with visible anger.
Olivia calls Circia a liar, claiming Circia promised to marry her father instead of Enoch.
A sharp scream sounds as Olivia wails about the broken promise regarding her father.
Circia clutches her head in a dizzying swirl of confusion over the girl's nonsensical claims.
Circia asks how she entered the dangerous youth course, but Olivia insists it is safe.
Enoch warns Olivia about wild beasts and explains that the area is for tournament participants only. Enoch explains that since the Emperor is hosting, they must report her presence to her family.
A panicked gasp sounds as Olivia realizes her parents will find out she snuck in. Olivia begs them for secrecy, while Enoch realizes they have no choice but to escort her.
Circia worries that while they might just get scolded, a dishonorable act could ruin Olivia's future.
Olivia wails about her brother's hard work, while a narration asks whose fault it is.
Circia contemplates her options while resting her chin on her hand in deep thought.
Thoughts weigh heavily on Circia about protecting Osric's honor while getting Olivia out safely. A heavy gulp sounds as Circia ponders her difficult choice under the bright sun. A quiet whisper sounds as the Emperor listens to a report while seated on his throne.
The Emperor smiles while drinking wine, leading the prince to ask what is so amusing.
The Emperor asks the Crown Prince for his prediction on who will win the tournament. The Crown Prince predicts a Grey family victory, prompting the Emperor to ask why. The Prince explains that an emblem focuses on protecting the weak over winning or losing. Scenery of the quiet forest appears as the Prince notes Circia's duty to protect the girl.
The Emperor watches the tournament as the Prince concludes Circia will lose against Enoch.
Circia wonders if there is a way to handle the situation and still beat Enoch.
Circia considers if she should prioritize her rival over Olivia's safety and her brother's honor.
A single tear falls as Circia looks down, filled with the weight of her decision.
Circia declares her intent to forfeit, leaving Enoch looking completely shocked by her words.
Circia offers to escort Olivia, despite Olivia's concern about the time Circia spent preparing.
Circia smiles, explaining that she doesn't want to win by ignoring someone in trouble.
Enoch looks somber, realizing he might be cast out if he won by abandoning his friends. Circia tells Enoch to promise never to whine again, prompting a panicked apology before he asks what will happen to him if she forfeits. Circia tells him he must complete the tournament alone, while the blonde-haired Olivia offers her own help.
Circia explains that since all eyes are on the two of them, they cannot afford to be caught together.
Circia asks Enoch if he has a reason he absolutely must win, and he somberly admits that he does.
A vision of a silver-haired knight appears among roses, reflecting on a goal that has been long awaited.
With a sudden, quick "tuk" sounding, Circia tells Enoch to win for the sake of his own honor.
Circia promises to get Olivia back safely, leaving the young blonde girl looking completely stunned. Olivia begins to tremble, pointing frantically into the dark woods while asking what is standing there. A massive, terrifying monster stag and boar demon appears, leaving Circia looking absolutely horrified.
Circia realized that the tournament area was supposed to be clear, making this monster's presence impossible.
Circia tells Olivia to hide behind her as she recalls her mother's lessons about dangerous beasts.
Narration explains that these monsters live far away, but hunt humans whenever they find a settlement.
Enoch draws his blade, noting the beast is a low-grade monster, while Circia acknowledges the threat.
Circia feels overwhelmed, realizing that even for a genius like Enoch, this battle is far too dangerous. She realizes that if she cannot stop it, Olivia, Emmett, and Osric will all be in grave danger. Circia grips her gold-hilted sword, looking at the beast while silently thinking of her father. A heavy, rhythmic tuck sounds as the massive beast begins to step forward toward them. With a look of intense focus, the red-haired girl raises her ornate sword high above her head. A sharp metallic clink sounds as Circia steadies her grip, preparing herself for the fight.
The beast charges as narration reminds Circia to never take her eyes off of her prey.
Circia focuses her glowing golden eyes, asking herself what skill she is truly the best at.
Circia swings her blade, relying on the hundreds of practice hours she has dedicated to her training.
Circia dashes under the beast, trusting her body's muscle memory to carry her through the strike.
A sharp, wet splash sounds as Circia successfully slashes the underside of the massive demon boar.
A loud, pained squeal sounds as Circia shouts for Enoch to take his chance to strike now.
Enoch looks startled as Circia screams for him to finish the beast off immediately.
Circia lies on the ground, desperately shouting for Enoch to end the fight while he has the chance.
A quick, powerful tap sounds as Enoch's boot pushes off the ground to launch his final attack.
With a fierce, determined shout, the silver-haired boy leaps into the air with his sword drawn. Enoch's sword plunges deep into the skull of the monster, ending the encounter in one blow.
A heavy, thudding thud sounds as the beast collapses, its shadow looming over the victorious Enoch. Panting in the rain, Enoch asks if they succeeded, as Circia lies exhausted near the carcass.
Circia remains on the ground, catching her breath while the heavy rain washes over the battlefield.
Enoch stares at Circia with a look of profound shock, his blue eyes wide with realization. A quiet, breezy swish sounds as Enoch turns his head, staring back at the red-haired girl.
Enoch's blood-stained sword reflects the grim scene as he reflects on how poorly things went.
A memory of Circia's frantic scream for him to finish the fight echoes in Enoch's mind.
Enoch realizes that his legs only moved because of Circia's desperate cry for him to act. The image of Enoch's final strike reappears, showing the moment he delivered the killing blow.
Enoch reflects on how Circia saved him from his fear when he couldn't even move himself. A rhythmic drip, drip sounds as rain and blood fall from Enoch's hands onto the muddy ground.
Looking back at Circia, Enoch internally admits that he has been completely defeated by her.
A soft, relieved pew sounds as Circia sits up, asking Olivia if the fight is finally over. Olivia wails as she clings to Circia, while the red-haired girl reminds her things aren't finished.
A soft, rhythmic drip sounds as Olivia cries, thanking the red-haired girl for saving her.
Circia hears a rustling in the bushes and tells Olivia she is glad they are safe. Osric and Emmett arrive, shocked to see Olivia there and asking about the blood nearby. Osric spots the monster corpse and Enoch, asking what happened in this dangerous area. Circia cuts Enoch off, telling Osric that Enoch hunted the beast and chaos will arrive soon. Circia urges them to take Olivia and leave immediately so that no one discovers she snuck in. Circia urges Osric to take Olivia away, and the blonde boy agrees immediately. As he departs with the girl, Osric promises to help ensure they get out safely.
Circia breathes a sigh of relief as the stressful encounter with the beast concludes.
Circia asks if Enoch is unhurt, but the silver-haired boy demands why she lied. Enoch accuses Circia of playing dumb as a vision of a dark-haired man appears. Circia recoils in terror, pointing a trembling finger as Enoch's appearance seems to shift. Terrified, Circia realizes the silver-haired boy is mirroring a man from her previous life. A soft tremble sounds as boots trudge through the mud in the heavy rain. A shattered vase lies on the floor of a dark room overlooking a glittering city. In a vision of the past, a woman detective leads a group into a dark room. A man looking at the skyline notes that the detective has arrived late again. The man smirks, mocking the detective by asking if she missed him on purpose. The brown-haired detective fumes with visible rage, her teeth clenched in silent anger. Back in the forest, Enoch shouts for the dazed, groaning Circia as the rain falls. A sharp flinch sounds as Circia screams for Enoch to stay far away from her. Circia hyperventilates as she wonders why that bastard's face appeared over Enoch's own features.
Enoch wipes blood from his face, asking if the monster's blood is bothering her. Circea's nausea fades as Enoch's appearance returns to normal, much to her relief. Circea realizes Enoch is different from Yoon Do-yoon, a man from her past life. While she finds Enoch rude, Circea concludes he isn't a bad person like the man. A sharp metallic clink sounds as Enoch drives his blade into a monster carcass. Enoch declares they must proceed, leaving the red-haired girl looking utterly confused and startled. Enoch challenges Circea to a proper match, demanding she draw her sword in the rain. Circea argues that since Enoch saved her from the beast, a match is unnecessary now. Enoch insists on settling their rivalry with swords to prove who is truly the superior warrior. Enoch identifies himself as a gray, refusing to accept any victory handed to him. The silver-haired boy declares that a victory from an emblem holds no value to him. Circea yells that she wanted to finish the monster herself with her own hands. Circea screams that she only called for help because she dropped her sword during combat. Circea acknowledges Enoch's role, admitting she would have died if he hadn't finished it off. Circea warns Enoch not to be arrogant just because he was the victor this time. Looking at their hunt, Circea vows that she has not been completely defeated yet. Enoch watches Circea with a soft expression, noticing her renewed sense of fierce determination. Enoch observes that Circea is determined to continue refining her skill with the sword. Circea admits she is grateful Enoch pushed her to learn how to handle a sword. Circea recalls Olivia's tearful gratitude, remembering how it feels to save a human life.
A soft sob sounds as Circea remembers mourning parents thanking her for helping their daughter.
Circea reflects on her past career as a detective and the salvation she brought others. Circea realizes that with her own hands, she has once again protected someone in need. She reflects on the thrill of the battle and the sensation of striking the beast. A joyful laugh sounds as Circea smiles brightly, filled with a sense of accomplishment. Enoch notices Circea's happiness, watching the girl with a quiet, observant gaze. Enoch's blue eyes widen as he stares at the radiant, smiling, red-haired girl. A snap sounds as the owl-crested banner of the tournament waves in the blue sky. Enoch walks down a red carpet as a crowd cheers for the victorious young knight. The crowd whispers about the young gray genius who finally managed to beat an emblem.
Enoch looks down in silence, the weight of the crowd's expectations pressing on him.
Duke Gray receives congratulations from nobles, boasting about the future his grandson will write. The silver-haired Duke looks to the side with a sharp and calculating gaze.
A chilling silence follows as the Duke's cold, stern eyes focus on something off-screen.
The blonde prince acknowledges the Duke's sharp mind in deciphering the board he set up. A sharp wooden talk sounds as the prince moves a chess piece during the tournament. Prince notes Enoch's win justifies making a gray the next Imperial Guard, requesting a favor. Smirking, the blonde prince addresses the Duke as master while asking for a favorable move. Circea's parents look over the tournament crowd, their faces etched with deep, visible worry. The red-haired woman responds with a somber nod when addressed by a fellow noble. Olivia and her mother approach the red-haired woman with looks of profound sadness and guilt. Olivia and her mother bow deeply, begging the red-haired lady for her sincere forgiveness. Circea's mother realizes her daughter snuck into the hunt to rescue the young blonde girl. Olivia reassures her that Circea only hurt her palm slightly and is otherwise doing fine. The young girl trembles as she apologizes for causing trouble through her thoughtless behavior. The red-haired woman offers a warm, radiant smile to comfort the distraught young girl. A soft, surprised hic sounds as Olivia and her mother stare at the lady's kindness. Red-haired woman comforts Olivia, explaining that the emblem was simply fulfilling their sworn duty.
Excusing themselves, Circea's parents bow and depart to find their brave and reckless daughter. Staring in awe, Olivia tells her mother that the red-haired lady was incredibly cool. The brown-haired father points toward the bushes, spotting a familiar figure hidden in the leaves. A soft rustle sounds as little Circea peeks out from the brush with wide eyes. Her parents shout her name with voices filled with overwhelming relief and intense emotion.
Little Circea leaps from the bushes, shouting joyfully that she has finally returned to them.
Circea's parents sweep the young red-haired girl into a tight and loving family embrace.
Her father welcomes her back while her mother asks if she had a fun adventure.
Looking up at her mother, Circea says she has something important to share.
Circea's parents look stunned as she declares she has fallen in love with the sword.
A joyful, high-pitched laugh sounds as little Circea beams with a bright and proud grin.
The family shares a long hug as flower petals drift around them in the sun. A sharp, resonant tak sounds as wooden practice swords collide with great force.
In a memory, young Enoch trains fiercely with an instructor in a grand training hall.
The instructor warns that a split second of hesitation leads to certain death in combat.
The teacher explains that swordsmanship must be mastered by the body rather than the mind. A heavy, echoing whack sounds as Enoch delivers a powerful strike against his teacher's guard. Panting heavily, young Enoch listens as his instructor calls an end to their daily practice. Enoch walks past servants who whisper about his status as the youngest tournament winner. Walking alone through the silent mansion, Enoch reflects on the shadow of his own fear.
A rhythmic tap sounds as Enoch remembers Circea moving when he was unable to act.
Enoch sits beneath a tall tree, searching his pockets for a cherished and secret item.
Enoch stares at a paper, feeling entirely unworthy of hearing such kind and proud words.
A letter from his mother apologizes for missing his achievement while she is away.
Clutching the letter to his chest, Enoch thinks about seeing his mother again very soon. With a look of fierce resolution, Enoch resolves to reunite with her at the mansion. The massive and ornate gray mansion stands proudly beneath a bright and clear blue sky. A sharp, repetitive talk sounds as young Enoch trains alone in the dusty courtyard. From a high balcony, the blonde prince watches Enoch's outstanding skills with a calculating gaze. Prince notes that defeating a monster at Enoch's age is a truly remarkable and terrifying feat. Duke Gray and the blonde emperor face each other inside a luxurious, sunlit office. Duke Gray sternly asks if the monster was released by His Majesty for a scheme. The blonde emperor remains silent, neither confirming nor denying the Duke's heavy and serious accusation.
Duke Gray scolds him for playing dangerous games with the lives of innocent children.
Prince explains it was a test to see the true skills of future Imperial commanders. Duke Gray gasps in horror as the prince names Enoch the next Emperor's sword. The blonde prince expresses his desire for House Gray to provide the next Imperial Guard. The prince rests his hands on a desk covered in official documents.
Duke Gray considers how this victory would finally end their long-standing rivalry with House Emblem.
A sharp gulp sounds as the Duke wonders why the prince is offering him everything he wanted. The blonde prince explains that Rutinus requires a sharp, new generation of knights.
Focusing on his goal, the prince mentions that a genius like Enoch Gray is needed.
Sweating, Duke Gray acknowledges Enoch's skill, but remains suspicious of the prince's true motives.
The Duke reflects that being a genius alone shouldn't justify becoming the Emperor's sword.
Passing a portrait of a silver-haired woman, the Duke continues through the quiet hall. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the old man's feet stumble on the wooden floor. Sinking into a chair with a weary sigh, the Duke absorbs the weight of the prince's words.
Holding his head in his hand, the Duke requests to speak with the prince more informally.
Smiling slightly, the blonde prince invites his former master to speak his mind freely.
The Duke questions Markian about Dana, who was sent away on an imperial order long ago.
A tattered and blood-stained banner lies abandoned on the dark, muddy ground.
The Duke realizes the promotion is a bribe to keep the Knight Commander's disappearance a secret.
Markian confirms the theory, suggesting they settle the matter of Dana's disappearance this way.
A single pawn stands before a king on a chessboard, representing the harsh reality of politics.
The Duke accuses the prince of calculating how to appease him after losing his daughter.
Markian looks flustered, insisting he was merely presenting the official standpoint of the empire.
The Duke warns that while the late emperor understood true leadership, the prince still does not. He lectures the prince on the importance of apologies and ruling with the integrity of a swordsman.
The silver-haired man stares intensely, warning that those who ignore obstacles quickly lose their heads.
The Duke ends his lecture, stating he only nags to prevent the prince from alienating House Grey.
Bowing deeply, Duke Grey takes his leave from the prince's presence. Alone, Markian reflects on his foolish attempt to outmaneuver his own former teacher.
The prince notes that the empress has escalated her attacks with assassins and dark rituals.
Markian thinks of Circia, realizing they need a knight willing to die for a frail prince.
Looking at the prince, the Duke notes that Markian finally looks like his true self again.
A map of the region signifies that the news of Dana's disappearance will soon cause chaos.
The Duke foresees a bloody struggle for the throne beginning once the Empress takes action.
Beside a vision of a guillotine, they discuss Enoch's dangerous position as a relative of the Empress.
Looking determined, the blonde prince asks his master to help him stop the Empress.
The Duke acknowledges the request, remembering Enoch's father is the brother of the Empress.
In a memory, a hand rests on young Enoch's head as he is separated from his mother.
A joyful ha-ha sounds as the young silver-haired boy laughs while playing in the garden.
A dark narrative box laments the cruel fate waiting to sacrifice such an innocent life.
The scene shifts to a grand mansion as someone asks if Circia is ready.
The brown-haired father dresses for the day while a butler assists with his coat.
Surprised, the father learns that Circia refuses to attend the upcoming medal ceremony.
A rhythmic tap sounds as the father walks toward his daughter's room to investigate.
Opening the door with a look of concern, the father calls out to his daughter.
He stops in his tracks as he sees a surprising scene unfolding inside the bedroom.
Circia sits in bed with a bandaged arm while Olivia feeds her snacks.
The father worries if it is disrespectful to have the Martianus' daughter acting as a servant. Circia looks up with a defiant expression, while Olivia happily continues feeding her. Circia asks her friend for a moment alone to speak privately with her father. Sitting on the bedside, the father notes that Circea's spirit reminds him of her mother's childhood.
He predicts that Circia, like Melcia, will soon find herself surrounded by many devoted followers.
Holding a jar of snacks, Circia beams as her father praises her for protecting others.
Circea's father questions her decision to skip the upcoming medal ceremony for the hunting tournament.
Circia argues Enoch killed the monster, but her father credits her for the brilliant thrust.
Fiddling with her snack jar, Circia looks down while feeling conflicted about the ceremony.
Her father notices her hesitation and gently asks if she wants something else instead.
A sharp, rhythmic "tak" sounds as Circia dramatically presents her heavily bandaged right arm.
Circia complains that her injury has barred her from sword practice and left her bored.
Looking determined, the red-haired girl begs her father to let her resume her training.
Her father sighs, explaining that both the doctor and the family head must approve.
Circia worries she will lose her skills while Enoch continues to train every single day.
Feeling ashamed, Circia apologizes for her whining while her father comforts her with a smile. A soft, surprised, "Huh?" sounds as Circia reacts to her father's suggestion of a plan.
Smiling cleverly, her father reminds Circia that he is the chief strategist of House Emblem. Hope flares in Circea's wide eyes as she listens to her father's secret training proposal.
At the ceremony, a surprised "ah" sounds as Circea is handed a tall, fruity drink.
A polite, blonde-haired boy thanks Circe warmly for her bravery during the recent monster hunt.
Circea gestures to her bandages, explaining that her arm hasn't quite finished healing just yet.
The boy is confused when Circea mentions she has started focusing on lower body training instead.
Excitedly, Circea explains her father's rule about training healthy body parts when others are injured. Looking baffled, the boy wonders if she really needs to go to such extreme lengths. He observes that Circea's eyes truly shine whenever she talks about her passion for swordsmanship. Circea asks the boy what specific lower body exercises he has been practicing in his training. A sudden, sharp tap sounds as a hand lands heavily on the blonde boy's shoulder. Young Enoch appears with a dark and intense gaze, causing the other boy to flinch. Circea mentions she was about to eat, and Enoch tells her to enjoy her meal.
Circea watches Enoch leave, wondering if he is feeling tired or unusually on edge tonight.
Enoch asks Circea if she remembers their engagement, and she confirms she hasn't forgotten it. A silent tension hangs between them as Enoch stares deeply and seriously into Circea's eyes.
Enoch claims he is just feeling on edge due to the crowd in the hall. Circea is surprised when the star of the ceremony says he just wants to rest.
A sharp, aggressive "huh" sounds as knights begin arguing about who saved whom during the hunt.
A dark-haired man in white mocks the other knights for their lack of common sense.
The blue-clad knight retorts by calling him the head of a forever second-place noble family.
Tensions reach a boiling point as the two groups prepare to settle their rivalry immediately.
A resonant clang sounds as a knight draws his blade to defend his house's honor.
Panicked, Enoch reaches out and suggests they quickly go find an adult to stop this. Circea freezes in place as a sudden, ominous feeling washes over her entire being. A dark vision reveals a blood-stained boy and a mysterious man asking if she missed him. A soft, horrified gasp escapes Circea as the terrifying images flood her young mind. The vision persists, showing the bloodied child desperately calling out for Circea in the darkness. A resonant "sir" echoes through her consciousness as the mysterious, dark-haired man looks back. Trembling, Circea clutches her chest as she struggles to return to her current surroundings. The argument reaches a fever pitch as the knights prepare for a violent, open confrontation. The rivals roar in agreement, determined to prove which noble house is truly superior today. A loud, sudden "wah" sounds as a man falls backward between the two angry groups. A heavy, echoing thump sounds as the man in white lands flat on his back. Looking around in confusion, the man asks who shoved him while the others stare. The man laughs and offers a cheerful greeting to the stunned Emblem and Grey Knights. Circea and Enoch stare in absolute disbelief at the man's sudden and bizarre interruption. A soft, bewildered "Dad?" sounds as Enoch recognizes the man sitting on the floor. The man distracts everyone by babbling about some delicious bread baked by the Marqueanus recently. Sweating and looking flustered, Circea's father nervously shouts, "Ah, yes, of course!" The strategist of House Emblem offers a polite thank you to the nearby guests. Walking away, the father says, "Then I'll be off," while Circea cheers, "Yes!" Circea's father guides her through the hall, saying, "Let's go, Circea," as she agrees. Peeking through a doorway, the father tells Circea to rest there before coming back out.
Circea asks about dessert, but Enoch explains her father is just giving them an escape.
In a chibi vision, Circea looks hopeful, while Enoch remains skeptical and annoyed. Circea yells, "Seriously?" as her father closes the door and tells them to rest well. Circea and Enoch acknowledge the distraction, calling the man their uncle and father respectively. Adjusting her cape, Circea asks if knights always come this close to brawling in public.
Circia jokes that her father is likely sprawled out on a sofa by now. Enoch stares intensely at Circia, asking her what happened during the confrontation earlier. Circia tries to act confused, but Enoch tells her not to pretend she doesn't know.
Enoch notes that she avoided his gaze when he suggested calling for an adult's help.
Looking concerned, Enoch asks if he did something that made her feel uncomfortable today. Enoch asks if she is bothered by the tournament credit, and Circia simply says no.
Circia claims the credit doesn't matter, prompting Enoch to ask what she really wants.
Looking hesitant, Circia tells Enoch she actually has a favor to ask of him.
Circia admits that something has been bothering her, though she claims it isn't huge.
Circia demands that Enoch promise to grant her favor before she explains what it is.
Enoch argues that her request sounds more like an order, causing Circia to turn away.
The silver-haired boy looks visibly stressed and sweaty as the tension between them grows.
Enoch finally agrees, and Circia celebrates with a bright smile and a joyful cheer.
Circia grabs Enoch's arm and tells him to repeat a specific word after her.
The red-haired girl stares at Enoch with an unusually intense and serious expression.
Enoch stammers as Circia waits for him to finish repeating her strange request. Circia suddenly yells for Enoch to address her by the title of detective.
Looking completely baffled, Enoch asks what that title is even supposed to mean. Circia becomes frantic, screaming for Enoch to just call her that and to hurry up.
Circia hopes this title will reveal if Enoch is connected to her enemy, Yoon Do-yoon.
Enoch reluctantly mutters the title, but Circia realizes it triggered no reaction or memory.
Circia stands in silence as the weight of the experiment's failure settles over her.
In a chibi scene, Circia realizes the title test told her absolutely nothing useful.
Circia reflects that Enoch is rude, but likely has no link to her mortal enemy.
Circia waves off her strange request, telling a confused Enoch to just forget it. Enoch yells that he cannot forget it, starting to mention his role as her fiancé.
Circia wonders why Enoch stopped mid-sentence, noting how unlike him it is to hesitate.
Enoch demands that Circia grant him a promise in return for the favor he performed. The silver-haired boy holds out his hand, preparing to solidify their new mutual agreement. Enoch extends his pinky finger toward Circia, waiting for her to commit to the promise.
Circia looks confused, wondering why Enoch cares so much about such a childish gesture.
A sudden noise from outside the room causes Circia to wonder if someone has arrived. Ignoring the distraction, Enoch firmly yells for Circia to give him her promise. The two children lock pinky fingers, sealing their secret agreement in the quiet room. Both children look awkward and flustered after completing their secret pinky swear ceremony. Walking away, Circia feels relieved that Enoch finally looks more relaxed and like himself.
Circia and Enoch peek through the door as they hear that important guests are entering.
Circia asks who arrived, and a servant explains it is a very rare visitor. The servant loudly announces the arrival of Her Majesty the Empress to the hall.
A dark-haired woman stands with young Prince Ador, the second prince of the empire.
Looking toward the Empress, Enoch notes that she is his father's older sister, though Circia admits her own father rarely mentions the woman.
Circia reflects on the strong family resemblance in the hall, thinking to herself that the noble family's genes are clearly working hard.
A sudden, sharp talk sounds as Circia greets her uncle, Edward, who has just arrived to find the children together.
Looking visibly strained and sweaty, Edward explains that he and Enoch must head home immediately due to an urgent matter.
Circia and Enoch both quickly agree to leave, preparing to follow Edward out of the crowded ceremony hall.
Circia asks if her uncle is truly all right since he looks unwell, but Edward dismisses her concern, claiming he is just a bit sweaty. Circia watches her uncle closely, sensing that his discomfort and nervousness are deeper than he is willing to admit. Edward trembles as Circia observes how scared and on guard he seems, and he tells her to enjoy the party before wishing her a safe trip home. Circia waves a friendly goodbye to her uncle and Enoch as they turn to make their exit from the room. Circia is startled as the Empress approaches, questioning why her own brother does not seem to understand her feelings. Looking beautiful yet sorrowful, the Empress continues to plead for her brother's understanding as Circia watches the interaction. Edward stops in his tracks and looks back with a cold, intensely annoyed expression at being addressed by his sister.
Bowing formally, Edward greets the Empress, who remarks on how lovely it is to meet her niece for the first time. Edward firmly interrupts, declaring that he has cut ties with his original family and that Enoch is not the Empress's niece.
Enoch is stunned by his father's blunt rejection as Edward demands that the Empress leave his child alone.
The Empress remains silent, her profile showing a calm but calculating expression following her brother's public outburst.
Circia observes that the mood in the hall has turned completely icy as the Empress questions her brother's health.
An intense close-up reveals Edward's furious gaze as he commands the woman to stop calling herself his sister. Edward yells that her persistent claims of a family connection make him extremely uncomfortable and tells her to stop immediately. The Empress acts wounded, calling him by his name, while Circia reflects that she has never seen her uncle this angry. Circia hears the crowd whispering about her uncle's perceived rudeness, leaving her feeling deeply conflicted about the situation.
Clutching his head in distress, Edward pleads to be allowed to withdraw, repeating that he does not feel well at all.
Circia finds the Empress's persistent behavior creepy, noting how she ignores her brother's distress to push her own agenda.
Looking around at the gathered guests, Circia realizes that the Empress is totally different from her elegant outward appearance.
A system-like graphic appears as Circia tries to calculate a way to help her uncle escape the conversation.
A sudden, sharp spark appears in Circia's eyes as she finalizes a plan to disrupt the tense royal encounter. In a chibi vision, Circia decides that the best course of action is simply to cause a massive scene. Circia yells for everyone to hear, claiming that her uncle looks pale and is about to collapse from a fever.
Circia winks at Enoch, whispering for him to help her pull their uncle out of the room immediately. Enoch quickly plays along, urgently telling his father that they should go home before he collapses like last time. The Empress and the nearby guests look completely surprised by the sudden, loud interruption from the two children.
Circia continues her act, loudly claiming the Empress surely knows how much her brother is suffering right now.
A soft, horrified gasp sounds as Circia asks if her uncle is about to stop breathing, leaving the Empress stunned.
Caught off guard by the public scene, the Empress reluctantly tells Edward to go and rest. The Empress maintains a facade of worry, though her expression remains tense as she watches the group.
Edward looks at the Empress one last time, his face a mask of suspicion and silent, cold frustration.
Bowing slightly, Edward takes his leave and leads Enoch away from the royal presence.
Circia waves a cheerful goodbye, but her smile hides a growing sense of dread about being left behind. Circia begins to sweat as she realizes she is now alone with the Empress, regretting her decision not to leave. The Empress's eyes are hidden in shadow as Circia thinks to herself that anyone can see the woman is pissed off.
Circia tries to steady her nerves, telling herself she did what needed to be done for her uncle's sake.
The Empress turns her attention towards Circia, asking if she is the young lady of House Emblem. Looking radiantly beautiful, the Empress offers a soft smile that doesn't quite reach her cold, judging eyes. Circia smiles back, noting that when you really care for someone, you can tell when they are sick. The Empress's expression darkens with hidden rage, thinking that this tiny child dares to talk back to her. Looking determined, Circia thinks to herself that, Empress or not, the woman should stop bothering her uncle. In a chibi thought, Circia wonders if the Empress is really going to get mad at a 7-year-old child. Maintaining her elegant pose,
The Empress remarks that the emblem young lady is truly adorable and very emblem-like.
Prince Adore takes the Empress's hand to lead her away, noting there will be plenty of other chances to see Enoch.
Circia bows politely as the Empress departs, feeling deeply relieved that the dangerous encounter has finally ended.
Circia is perplexed by the Empress's ambiguous and judgmental comments.
Returning to her father, Circia asks for water while he questions her whereabouts.
Circia reports her conversation with the Empress, curious about the woman's obvious hostility.
Her father begins a tale about a past proposal involving her mother and the Empress.
A shocking reveal about the Emperor's past proposal sends Circia into a coughing fit.
Circia finally connects the dots as to why the Empress despises her entire family.
The red-haired girl worries that she has effectively declared war on the Empress. As night falls over the castle, a frantic voice calls out for Circia.
Malertia storms into her daughter's room, her expression wide-eyed with panic and urgency.
Looking horrified, the mother demands to know exactly what was said to the Empress.
Malertia scolds her daughter, insisting that any interaction with the Empress was a mistake.
Circia's mother is overwhelmed with fear, questioning why her child took such a risk.
Circia's father arrives, noticing the intense distress radiating from his wife. The man comforts Melmercia, lamenting the timing of the confrontation and Aunt Dana's situation. Circia watches them in silence, wondering if something terrible happened to her aunt.
Marcia asks for solitude, and her husband gently agrees to give her some space.
A heavy silence fills the room as Melortia walks away from her family. Circia asks for news about her aunt, but her father admits his own ignorance. He explains how the news of the royal encounter has shaken the entire household. Looking down at his daughter, the man offers a quiet, sorrowful look. Her father pulls her into a protective embrace, seeking to offer some comfort.
Circia promises to listen to him, her face full of concern for her family.
He tries to explain his wife's anxiety and the mystery surrounding Aunt Dana. The sound of a sudden disturbance pulls his attention toward the balcony outside. Memories of a violent argument between Melcia and the grandfather flash through the room. The grandfather's roar echoes as he accuses his daughter of a terrible betrayal. Startled by the commotion, Circia asks her father what is going on.
He instructs Circia to remain in her room and hide until he returns.
Looking tense, her father promises to investigate the cause of the shouting. He offers one last reassuring look, telling her to be a good girl. Watching him leave, Circia is overcome by an inescapable sense of looming danger. The red-haired girl trembles as the weight of the family secrets settles on her. Circia's thoughts drift toward Enoch and the high stakes of his mother's safety. In a flashback, young Enoch looks hopeful about winning a chance to be home. Circia realizes that Enoch is likely waiting for her or planning something bold. She wonders about the severity of Aunt Dana's injuries and the chaos in Crichton. A dark, sinking feeling takes hold as Circia pieces together a horrifying theory.
A sudden realization forces Circia to spring into action as she leaps from bed.
Circia fears that the impulsive Enoch might have actually left for the dangerous Crichton.
A shadowy figure looks back from the darkness, hinting at a secret departure. Looking cold and determined, Enoch prepares to set out on a solitary mission. A heavy door shuts with a final thud, leaving the room cold and empty. Newspaper reports confirm the devastating news of Aunt Dinah's disappearance and the resulting chaos. The absence of such a powerful figure leads to a massive influx of refugees. A servant hands Circia a newspaper, confirming the rumors that have haunted her. The servant tries to shield the child from politics, asking if she has eaten. Circia learns that her mother has already left for the palace in a hurry. Realizing she is left alone, Circia laments the absence of her entire family. Playing up her sorrow, Circia tells the servant she needs to embrace her loneliness. Circea's eyes spark with a new plan as she decides to take matters into her own hands.
The brown-haired servant gently addresses Circea as she rests her hands on the girl's shoulders.
Circea demands an explanation as the servant warns that visiting Gray would be uncomfortable due to rumors blaming the family head for her aunt's disappearance.
Circea whistles innocently while planning her next move with a finger on her cheek.
The woman refuses Circea's request to go out, prompting the girl to declare she will go to sword training instead.
A portrait of Enoch is pinned to a training dummy made of straw.
Circea practiced her swordsmanship alone, worrying that the training might be too intense for the absent Enoch.
Circea pauses her training to examine the wooden structure before her thoughtfully.
Circea emotionally reflects on how the training dummy was her only constant companion when her family was away. A sharp thwack sounds as Circea cheerfully decapitates her straw friend with a wooden sword.
Circea stares in confusion at the broken remains of the training equipment.
Shaking with nerves, Circea laments the timing of the equipment's failure during such a difficult week. Falling to the ground with a thud, Circea cries for her family, overwhelmed by fear for Enoch and the monsters in Crichton. A person's boot appears near Circea as she continues to weep on the ground. A large man with red hair and a beard looks down at the sobbing girl. The man lifts Circea into a warm embrace, comforting his pretty one as a soft patting sounds. Circea clings to the man's coat, her eyes welling with fresh tears.
Circea questions the man's casual attitude toward losing his ducal title, emphasizing the gravity of the situation.
The man proudly declares that only his sword and way of life define his identity.
A gentle hand reaches out to pat the red-haired girl on the head.
Circea's eyes sparkle as she ponders the man's words about his sword and way of life.
The girl looks up at her grandfather with a bright, hopeful expression.
The red-haired man offers a soft, bittersweet smile while looking down at his granddaughter. The man reveals he brought a gift from the imperial palace, much to Circea's delight. Circea expresses her love for the lacy white headpiece the man places on her head. The man explains he must return to Crichton Forest, causing Circea to worry about the dangers there without Aunt Dana. Circea looks away with a troubled, solemn expression. The man reassures Circea that Dana is safe, though he cannot provide more details right now.
Circea insists the man return for her birthday every year, noting her sadness at his absence this time.
A soft potting sounds as the man comforts the crying girl once more.
A sudden gurgle sounds, causing the man to wonder about the source of the noise.
Circea sheepishly admits she has not eaten yet while scratching the back of her head.
A startled wah sounds as the man roars in fury, demanding to know who dared to starve his granddaughter. Circea recalls how her grandfather's focus on food once ended a family feud and led him to scold everyone. Circea remembers her mother also prioritizing food, leading her to apologize to the grandfather for the skipped meal. Circea eats a meal, concluding that skipping food is a useful tactic for resolving family conflicts. Comparing her current life to her past, Circea notes that her family now goes into a frenzy whenever she misses a meal. While stirring her food, Circea worries about when she will see Enoch again and if he is eating. The servant bids Circea a good night as she prepares to leave the room. The woman stops and turns back toward the red-haired girl with a realization. Circea reacts with shock as the servant mentions that Enoch has run away from home again.
Circea feigns indifference while the servant teases her about her secret interest in the boy's whereabouts.
Circea wonders where the young Enoch could have gone as the scene shifts to him sitting alone at night. A sharp realization crosses Circea's face as she pieces together Enoch's likely destination. Circea flings open the balcony doors and steps outside into the night air.
Looking out over the grounds, the red-haired girl prepares to find her friend.
Circea finds Enoch reading a paper under a tree. He notes that she looks surprisingly composed. Circea, draped in a dark cloak, smiles warmly at the silver-haired boy. Circea clarifies she did not cry
and asks Enoch about the document he is reading.
A heavy thud sounds as Enoch flops onto the grass in a state of exhaustion.
Circia offers her support, but Enoch simply asks for a moment of quiet rest. Circia rests her head on her arms next to Enoch, wondering how she used to talk to him. Sitting up abruptly, Circia is shocked to learn Enoch's father collapsed upon hearing news of his mother, but the boy explains he is being stoic so he doesn't break his family's hearts.
Enoch explains that with his father down, he cannot afford to cry because it solves nothing and only causes more worry. Circia looks at him with deep concern, realizing the heavy emotional burden the boy is carrying for his family.
Looking up at the night sky, Circia softly asks the silver-haired boy if he is truly okay.
Enoch claims he is fine, noting that he rarely saw his mother anyway and cannot even recall their last proper conversation.
Circia whispers Enoch's name, her heart aching for the loneliness he hides behind his calm demeanor. The two children sit together in the quiet night, the weight of their family troubles hanging in the air. Enoch continues to stare upward, his expression unreadable as he processes the disappearance of his mother.
Circia calls Aunt Denia mean, reminding Enoch of how long he waited for her and how much effort he poured into his training.
Circia continues her passionate rant, asking if he thinks waking up early every day to run laps in the training ground was easy.
Enoch is confused by the mention of laps, but Circia shouts that his specific exercise routine is not the point of her anger.
The silver-haired boy stares in silence as Circia's words begin to break through his emotional walls.
Enoch begins to tremble, finally admitting his mother should have returned no matter what, even if she had to grit her teeth to do it.
Circia shouts that his mother should have returned specifically because she is his mom, leaving Enoch looking completely stunned.
Circia notices the deep anger he harbors toward his mother, which reminds her of a similar resentment from another life.
A hand slams onto a table as a voice demands to know why someone would work under a piece of trash.
In a memory, a brown-haired detective yells at Yoon Do-yoon, accusing him of wanting revenge for his mother's death and offering her help to jail the culprit.
The detective suggests that if Yoon Do-yoon helps her, they both get their revenge. But the black-haired man simply scoffs at her. Yoon Do-yoon asks the detective who told her that he ever wanted revenge for his mother's sake.
He teases the detective for only knowing half the story, revealing his mother was actually a thief who stole from her employer.
With a cold smile, the man asks why he would ever bother to avenge someone like her just because she died.
Yoon Do-yoon reveals the horrifying truth that he doesn't want to avenge his mother, but rather take revenge on her, leaving the detective speechless.
Circia clenches her hand as she realizes the parallel between her past memories and Enoch's current situation.
The red-haired girl promises herself not to overlap the two people again, noting that the situations are fundamentally different.
Enoch declares he will take revenge on his mother, causing Circia to jump in surprise and ask what he could possibly mean.
He explains his revenge is to become the Emperor's sword, a feat no Grey Duke has achieved, so his mother will regret her neglect when he refuses to ever face her again.
Circia finds his version of revenge practically cute, feeling a wave of relief that his heart is not as dark as she feared.
Enoch tells Circia to step up because he intends to get much stronger from now on, catching the girl off guard.
An annoyed Circia concludes that Enoch Grey is exactly the type of guy who makes girls want to punch him. A loud cry echoes over the castle grounds as birds take flight into the night air. The scene shifts as a grown Circia lies on the ground, gasping for air after an intense bout of training.
Sweat pours down her face as she struggles to regain her breath, the intensity of her efforts visible in her eyes.
A tall, silver-haired man stands over her, calling her name as he holds a training sword.
Circia Emblem, now 18 years old, smiles defiantly as she raises her wooden sword and declares that the match is not over yet. Looking at the man with irritation,
Cercia thinks about how much stronger and taller he has become during the time they were apart. Cercia closes her eyes and winces, clearly annoyed by her companion's overwhelming growth and prowess. The setting shifts to a grand, torchlit stone hall where training continues in the shadows. Swords clash with a violent spark as Cercia engages in a high-speed duel against a powerful opponent. Cercia stands panting before a tall figure clad in a full-body textured suit and a featureless mask.
Smirking at her opponent, Cercia mocks the Shadow Knight for having so many openings despite being the Emperor's direct guard, before ending the session.
The masked figures stand silently, holding a large, ornate sword as the training concludes for the day.
The featureless mask of the Shadow Knight stares back, giving no indication of the person hidden beneath the armor.